It feels like we've stepped back into the Cold War era. NATO's Secretary General, Mark Rudd, has even said so. Many military experts believe we could be on the brink of a major conflict, potentially involving the use of nuclear, chemical, or biological weapons. Countries around the world are increasing their military spending to address these growing threats. Despite this, some argue that we're still not investing enough in defense compared to recent years, even though the risks to our freedom and security are as significant as ever. Experts warn that the current pledges from NATO countries aren't enough to deter Russia, which is preparing for a prolonged conflict. They express deep concern, stating that NATO may not be adequately prepared for the challenges ahead. To counter this, they advocate for a significant increase in defense spending and a shift towards a wartime mindset. While specific targets haven't been outlined, it's clear that all NATO members must contribute more. A growing number of voices are suggesting that a direct confrontation between Russia and NATO is imminent. This alarming prediction comes as the global discourse surrounding food consumption shifts. For instance, figures like Bill Gates have promoted a reduction in meat consumption, particularly beef, citing environmental concerns. However, recent spikes in cattle prices suggest a different market dynamic at play. We're seeing a surge in bankruptcies within the US consumer discretionary sector. The majority of these larger companies are failing because average consumers are cutting back on spending. The Federal Reserve insists that the consumer is strong, but what they really mean is that a small group of wealthy individuals are still spending lavishly. They're buying overpriced houses and cars, creating a distorted picture of the overall consumer health. This disconnect between the reality of the average consumer and the Fed's perception highlights a serious economic issue. Scientists are once again sounding the alarm about a dangerous new threat, lab-created bacteria known as MIR. This synthetic organism, developed using taxpayer funds, has the potential to cause a global catastrophe. Meanwhile, rising costs for essentials like food and housing are putting immense pressure on families. Many households are struggling to make ends meet and are forced to cut back on basic necessities just to keep a roof over their heads. A recent study by LendingTree, based on data from the US Census Bureau Household Pulse Survey, revealed a concerning trend. More Americans than ever are struggling to afford their energy bills. A staggering 34% of respondents admitted to cutting back on essential expenses, such as food and medicine, just to keep the lights on and the heat running. This means families are facing tough choices like buying less nutritious food or going without the internet, which is crucial for children's education. People are struggling to pay their electricity bills, even though prices aren't rising as fast as they were. The cost of living is still very high, making it difficult for people to afford basic necessities. Many are forced to make tough choices, like cutting back on other essential expenses or taking on extra jobs, just to keep the lights on. In some areas, like Alabama and Mississippi, almost half of the population has had to sacrifice something to pay their electric bills. Now let's address the growing financial crisis. People are struggling to make ends meet, with credit card defaults reaching record highs, surpassing even the economic downturns of the past. Many Americans are facing financial hardship. Meanwhile, the government's focus seems to be on immigration, with a strong emphasis on stricter border control measures. According to Time magazine, if Trump can't reach agreements with other governments to take in detained migrants, and no country seems willing, what would he do? Trump responded, "I'll make sure they accept them, or we won't do business with those countries." Time then asked if that means Trump wouldn't need to build more detention centers. Trump replied, "No, we might still have to build them." Millions of people were brought in, and many came straight out of jails and prisons. Why would anyone allow that to happen? He then added that mistakes like this are why the last election was lost, calling it a bad situation. Time magazine asked Trump if new camps would be built to hold migrants. Trump replied, "There could be. I'll do whatever it takes within the law to get them out. If we need more camps, hopefully not too many, we'll use them."